That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Emilia Pérez, the 10th film directed by Jacques Audiard, which premiered in competition at the 2024 Cannes Film Festival, where it won 2 prizes, the jury prize, which is effectively the 3rd place prize, and Best Actress, notably with the distinction of that Best Actress prize going to the 4 female leads of the film, which we can talk more about that in a minute.
You saw this film at Cannes.
I did, and notably, it was acquired by Netflix. It's going to be released theatrically by them on November 1st in a brief window before it is available to stream on their service November 13th, 2024, and it is France's official submission in the category of Best International Language category.
It won 3rd place at Cannes. Mm-hmm. What won 1st place?
Honora, directed by Sean Baker.
Which I'm seeing tonight.
Yes.
And you really liked Honora.
Loved Honora as well. I really liked this film. And actually was, even though I've only seen it a couple months ago, it was a joy to rewatch again.
Do I know a Jacques Audiard film?
I don't think you do. This is his Spanish language debut. He's a French filmmaker. I've liked him, and his father was a director. I've liked him since the beginning in the 90s. Self-Made Hero, his 2nd film, The Beat That My Heart Skipped, which is a remake of a Harvey Keitel picture called Fingers. Rust and Bone, A Prophet was a big deal. The Sisters Brothers with Jake...
Is A Prophet with Ethan Hawke?
No, it's a French language film with Tahar Rahim. The Sisters Brothers was his English language debut, which I would highly recommend, with John C. Reilly and Jake Gyllenhaal. He won the Palme d'Or, the top prize at Cannes himself, in 2015 for Dupin, which is a film I'm not crazy about. And I was so surprised that I liked this film so much because I really disliked his last feature, PEREZ 13th District, which is also in competition at Cannes.
What is Emilia Pérez about? In Mexico, a lawyer receives an unexpected offer to help a feared cartel boss retire from his business and disappear forever by becoming the woman he's always dreamed of being. What's your pull quote?
If you could refer to a film as a multi-hyphenate entity, Emilia Pérez fits the bill. A vibrant, passionate odyssey about embracing the life you desire and the fundamental objectives of atonement.
Mine, Emilia Pérez is an explosive, fierce, heartbreaking, and bold, tragic musical fairy tale. I might say I love this film.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic film.
And I did not know it was a musical until like 30 minutes before we left to go see it. Mm-hmm. And I saw the running time, which is over 2 hours, and I got a little nervous, but not really, because you had talked about this in the Best of Worst Cannes video we did, and I knew you really enjoyed it.
I did.
And yeah, I mean, I would absolutely watch this again. I would recommend it. I suspect when I watch Joker Folie à Deux, my pull quote's going to be that you should just go watch Emilia Pérez, because I know Joker is a musical as well.
It is, and I've already also seen Joker, and I really loathed that film.
But this is about Emilia Pérez.
Yes.
So the story is the premise I read. Mm-hmm. So there is a cartel boss named Manitas del Monte, played by...
Karla Sofía Gascón.
Who is costumed to be male.
And interestingly, Spanish actor that has a similar trajectory.
She is a trans woman.
Yes.
Okay, so Manitas, enlists the help of a lawyer played by Zoe Saldaña.
Rita Moro Castro.
And we assume she caught his attention because she works as a criminal defense lawyer, but she's an assistant to some grimy guy who got off, like, he had a high profile case, but it was very clear that his assistant, Zoe Saldaña, did all the damn work. Mm-hmm. So she gets a call one day, and this is after we get a sense of how she feels about her life, which is that she's worked so hard to work in the background to get horrible people out of trouble. Mm-hmm. So she's not content with her work. She gets a call one day saying, clearly someone's watching her because they know she's in a bathroom, so it kind of freaks her out. But this person says, if you want a better job and be rich, meet me at this newspaper stand. And her curiosity gets the best of her. She goes, she gets kidnapped and taken to Manitas. And we're told he's like the #1 cartel boss in Mexico. So he's a big deal, very dangerous. He has to move in silence. So she's taken like blindfolded to this like big semi truck that's set up as like his command center, and it's in motion. So he's not playing. And he tells her very compassionately that he feels like Manitas feels like they were born female, but because of the line of work they're in, their background, they could never really be authentic with how they felt.
Right.
But they realize that time is running short because of who they are. They probably don't have much time left, so now is the time to do this. And Manitas tells Zoe, I'll make you rich if you can make this happen for me. He shows her the dollar amount. She agrees. And then we get this quick montage of her trying to find a surgeon who will perform the surgery.
In secret, without having met the client first, potentially, yeah.
And she's successful. The transition happens, and Zoe is told, your last bit of work is that you need to take my wife and kids out of Mexico, like indefinitely, because effectively I'm going to be dead. She does. The wife is played by Selena Gomez.
Jesse.
And they have 2 children, small children. And Zoe sets it up so they live in Switzerland in some beautiful chalet with all the money they could ever need. So we fast forward 4 years, and now Zoe Saldaña is living in London. She clearly has money now because her look has been elevated. And she's at some fancy dinner, and this is in the trailer. She's at a fancy dinner with a bunch of people, and they're all having a fabulous time. And she sees a woman, Emilia Pérez, who's also played by
Karla, Sofía, Gascón.
And they start chopping it up because they're the only 2 who speak Spanish, and they find out they're both from Mexico, even though Zoe's character explains she's actually from the Dominican Republic, but she like lived in Mexico. So they're just like enjoying each other's company when Emilia says something that sparks something in Zoe's mind. And she's like, wait a minute. It's not who I think it is. And Emilia says, bingo. So of course you think, oh my God, why is she following her? Zoe has a moment where she actually explains, like, are you here
to kill me?
To kill me, to tie up any loose ends? And Emilia's like, girl, no, I need you to get my kids back. Like, I want to be with my children.
Bring them back to Mexico.
Zoe does. And then the movie turns into something different because now we see a softer side of Sears because Emilia is this lovely lady with a beautiful home, a very different demeanor.
But posing as a tia to her children. And
the cousin of Manitas.
Yes, and Selena Gomez also has no idea
who this lady is.
Right.
But of course, Zoe explains, like, this is what Manitas had planned for you. I didn't know either, but you need to do what you're told to do. So let's bring your ass back to Mexico. And Selena's not happy, but her kids seem to be adjusting well. They really like their auntie. And Selena realizes that now she gets to maybe pursue an old flame, Gustavo, played by
Edgar Ramirez,
who I also know as Gianni Versace.
Yes.
And that seems to be going well until she decides she wants to marry Gustavo, which at first Emilia is fine with, until Selena says, oh yeah, my kids and I are going to move into another mansion away from you, like on the other side of town. And Emilia blows up and freezes all of Selena's bank accounts. Next thing we know, Emilia's been kidnapped. And then, of course, we find out that it's Selena and Gustavo, who have kidnapped her because they want money because they don't have any now.
And Jesse, Selena, doesn't know who Emilia really is.
No. But in like the final hour, there's like this big gunfight because Zoe has to come with $30 million to try to get the hostage, Emilia. And during a moment where it seemed, because it also seems like Emilia's been badly hurt or deprived of food.
Well,
like
she had 3 fingers cut
off. And she's had 3 fingers cut off. She looks like she's about to die anyway. She decides to tell Selena Gomez who she is. And then Selena realizes, oh my God, I made a mistake. I can't do this. But Gustavo takes the 2 of them, puts Emilia in the trunk of the car, and drives off because he's afraid and mad because he didn't get the money. Selena Gomez tries to stop the car and they get into a bad car accident. and all three of them die. So now it's just Zoe Saldaña left to take care of these two kids at the end. But there's so much more to the story.
Yeah, we're leaving out kind of a big part of the third act.
So the big part I left out is that Emilia, one day, because now she and Zoe, now that they're back in Mexico, they become friends. Because the relationship before was very much like based on fear.
Yes. Well, the same with her wife. Yeah.
Right. But now that Zoe's in Mexico and has brought the kids back, there is a component to the plot that I'm a little confused by, which we can talk about it now. I'm a little confused with what Zoe did with her life. Like when she moves from London to Mexico to help Emilia, it seems like she's there for good because they start a business together, a nonprofit. I was a little confused why that's not her full-time job, like why she's still working in London. But anyway, one day, Zoe and Emilia are talking, and this woman they're sitting at like an open air market, and this woman walks by with a flyer. Like, my son's missing, have you seen him? And they say no, she leaves. But Emilia takes that flyer. And she has a sort of an epiphany that maybe now that she's changed her life and she has all the money and all these connections, maybe her calling now, maybe to get redemption for all the bad things she did as a drug lord, is she wants to help all of these people find their missing loved ones. Because the likelihood that she, as Manitas, was probably responsible for a lot of these missing people is very high. She starts this non-profit called La Lucecita, which is basically that. Like, she uses all of her connections to find out where these like gangs and cartels hide all the dead bodies, and then they do DNA testing, and then they have created a directory where people can come and say, like, did you find my loved one?
And then Emilia has kind of another epiphany in the form of Epifania.
And this lovely lady named Epifania, I mean, there are so many good scenes, but one of the ones that really got me was this lady Epifania shows up, and we see that she walks into La Lucecita with a knife.
In her purse.
It was so tense. I was so worried that she was going to attack Emilia. So they're sitting at this desk. It's very tense. And maybe Emilia was having a bad day because she tells Epifania her loved one's dead in a very cold manner.
Yeah, she seems very terse.
And Epifania gets kind of upset. Like, are you sure? And as the audience, I didn't realize like what was going to happen. I thought she was going to get mad and stab her. But then we find out that Epifania's like, I'm so glad he's dead. He used to beat me, steal from me, sexually assault me. I brought a knife here today because if I found out he wasn't dead, I was going to kill his ass. And that was such a relief. And then they share a sweet moment, and Emilia apologizes for being terse. But the best moment is Epifania leaves, and Emilia's office is upstairs with a big window. So as Epifania's walking down the stairs, Emilia opens the window and says, hey, let me see the knife. Like, did you really have it? And she pulls out her little knife. Discreetly. And then Emilia pulls out this big ass gun.
But like, you know.
In a cute way. And then she says, do you ever want to hang out? So we find out that Emilia's a lesbian. And she starts dating Epifania. And it's a lovely courtship. So of course, when Epifania finds out that Emilia has been kidnapped, she's devastated. And I'm sure was even more devastated to find out she died. But the final scene of the film is there's a big parade in honor of Emilia.
Yeah, almost as if she's been martyred.
Like she's a saint.
Yeah.
Which is so crazy to think that, like, just the trajectory of this, like, violent drug lord to this, like, very lovely woman who really tried to help people. I mean, I can't really think of a movie in recent time where I felt so warm towards such, like, a person with such a horrible history.
Right, but I think that's also the point of it too, is that we all kind of have that level of humanity inside us, no matter what our actions otherwise dictate. But it also just even describing, I remember when the project was announced, and you know, somebody like this French male filmmaker making this movie, I was like, oh, this could, I just dread like how this is probably going to turn out, and it just works when you would think that it doesn't. And it reminds me of like 20, 30 years from now, when people see this movie, I think it'll feel akin to how we watch movies from the 70s that are like, I can't believe that this got made. Or that, like, this is so exceptionally written and so strange at the same time that it just seems like a marvel that it exists.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trans, so I'm not going to try to speak to the authenticity of any of it. But I feel like I felt like it was honoring this person and their journey. But more than that, I mean, I think anyone can relate to feeling like, I mean, there's so many levels to this story, feeling like you're not able to be who you really want to be. And then how we like often, like I'm sure many people can relate to feeling like if one aspect of my life could be different, how much better would it be?
And the resulting ripple effect of if you're happy.
And that's really the fantasy part to me, is like how this, like a person who is beyond bad. I mean, this is not just a common criminal. Earlier today, I was trying to find the words to describe, like, if Manitas would have just stayed Manitas, how would you have described him? He's like...
Without seeming disrespectful?
Akon. Yeah, how do you... I mean, he's like worse than a serial killer. I mean, it's just like an infection on society to do what he was doing. And then to see this person almost turn it all the way around. It's a hyperbolic representation of how people can change.
Sure, this is totally in extremes, but I think, yeah, anyone I think can relate to feeling trapped in a life that that wasn't their choice to be where they are. But once you start off on a path, you know, it can be very difficult to get off of it.
Well, and the power of being able to walk in your truth.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's, I think, also what this film is doing, is that even when Emilia becomes Emilia, she's still not walking in her truth.
Well, so let's get to that, because I think another really great scene is the scene where Selena Gomez runs away with the kids. Because after she tells Emilia she's going to marry Gianni Versace and go with her kids, Emilia goes off on her, like kind of violently.
Oh yeah, you can see Manitas.
Manitas pops up. And the next morning, Selena has absconded with the children, her children. So then we get this really great scene where it's split into three, and in the middle is Zoe on the phone, and on one side is Selena, and on the other is Emilia. And Selena's calling Zoe because she's like, that bitch froze all my assets, I have no money. And then Emilia is screaming, you need to get my kids back. And Zoe in the middle saying, everyone needs to calm down, you shouldn't have done this, you need to do this. But like you said, while Emilia is living in her truth, she's oppressing everyone else. She has Zoe trapped. She has her ex-wife, well, I guess her widow. How would you even describe Selena? Like, she has this woman trapped. Like, and Selena has a song about it where she talks about feeling trapped. So it's interesting. Like, you can't really...
But also not having, even as Emilia in walking in her, like, but not being truthful and honest, like not having laid the dead name to rest, really.
She's never going to be happy because she hasn't reconciled those demons. Like, you still have this woman, Selena Gomez, strung along. And
the hardest part, I think, is allowing other people to make the decision to accept you after you've made the decision to be your authentic self. And that is also a decision they should be allowed to make. But it's funny that she's holding that power, you know, captive.
Let me just go through my notes quickly. The opening scene is Zoe getting ready for a trial for some other defendant who she believes killed his wife, but she's part of the defense. So they're going to use some bullshit excuse like the wife committed suicide. And then Zoe wrote the closing argument for the lead attorney, and it works. The guy gets off. So she feels gross about it. And then this is the first musical number. She walks out into the streets of Mexico City, which I thought was a really cool segment. And she's singing about it. But at one point, she's also like working on her laptop, like with these... My note was, do street vendors have printers? Because she's at like some taco stand and there's like a full-size printer there. I know it's supposed to be fantastical.
It is. And she also seems to have a relationship with that woman because the lady's like, you're going to be late.
Yeah, but I thought it was funny. Like, oh, I didn't realize they had printers. Oh my gosh. Again, so many good scenes. When because Manitas tells her, okay, well, you have all the resources you can imagine at your disposal. You need to get me this sex reassignment surgery now. So we see her hightail it business class to Bangkok. And then we get this really cool musical number with her inside of this clinic where they're talking about the different procedures.
Which are the lyrics. The names of the procedures are the lyrics.
I just think the writing is so clever.
Well, she's just screaming, yes, yes. Oh, and I think shout out to the musical artist that created the songs, Camille was her name.
Yeah, very well done. She comes back home thinking she did a good job, and then Manitas' thugs show up. And they're like, bitch, you flew business class, spent all my money, and you still don't have a surgery for me? So they scare her. So she hightails it to Tel Aviv. And
Manitas also tells her, your predecessor wasted a lot of my time.
Yeah, that's why they're not here with the living. So she's motivated. So she goes to Tel Aviv, and that's a really great scene with this doctor.
And it's it starts out like you think kind of rocky because the doctor played
his singing.
Mark Ivanaire's voice isn't the greatest, but it ends up being a really lovely duet.
Yes.
And I think I don't mind Zoe Saldaña. I think that her performance in the first Avatar is actually kind of underrated, but I don't think you've ever seen her in a light like this before.
No, and I didn't have an opinion of her prior to this movie, good or bad, but I was very impressed.
Yeah, the choreography, her singing voice.
Yeah, very impressed.
I know she got a lot of flack for playing a blackface Nina Simone, but
yeah,
Zoe Saldaña can sing.
Yeah. Oh gosh, when Zoe has to go back to Switzerland after Selena and the kids have been living there for 4 years, and Selena has totally turned into this rich, I thought a funny scene was her, this rich Latina woman with her fur coat and her servants, and they're all these white Swiss women.
And they're hugging her.
And they're all hugging her. And I thought that was a really cute moment.
Well, the first shot when they're picking up Selena after the 4 years have passed is now she got that blonde hair too.
I mean...
And the kids like skiing.
Yeah. I do have to say, I hated her blonde wig so much.
It's not... Yeah.
And at one point she shampoos it. I was laughing in the screening room. Oh my gosh. Another amazing scene is when the kids are now back with Emilia in Mexico, and the daughter tells her aunt, I can't sleep. So the aunt gets in bed with her daughter / niece and tries to tell her a story. And then the daughter goes, you smell like Papa. And then the little kid has a musical number talking about how she smells like her dad. And it's perfectly written because it's the kind of stuff kids would say. Yeah. You smell like Coca-Cola, or when the dog's in the car.
Guacamole.
Or hot pebbles. And then Emilia goes, oh, do you like my scent? And the little girl goes, well, I don't like your perfume, but I like how you smell because you smell like Papa. That was so sweet.
And actually a lot of the musical numbers are really pulling in dialogue and
that's a good point.
Kind of built around that.
Because I feel like if you have an aversion to musicals, I'm not a musical theater gay, but I certainly appreciate them, but sometimes I'm put off. Yeah. I think because of how the music is structured and how the lyrics do feel more like dialogue, it worked very well for me. And also they're kind of paced sporadically. Well,
and they all kind of accompany a swell of emotion.
Yes.
Which I think is what the fantasy of a musical is usually supposed to be. But
another really good scene is Selena. I believe it's after her first time going out with Gustavo. She comes home to Emilia's house, and Emilia's in the kitchen. It was very Golden Girls to me when they go in and get their little cheesecake, because Emilia's playing it cool. And she's like, you have a good night? Okay. You want some food? No. How about some whiskey? Okay. So they start drinking brown liquor, and they sit on the couch and they're kiki. And Emilia goes, well, first she says, how was Manitas, in bed? And she kind of implies they didn't have much of a sexual relationship after the children were born. Well, did you love him? I loved him more than you could know. Did he love you? I don't know. Did you ever cheat on him? And this is when I was like, oh my God. Is this lady about to stomp her out if she tells the truth? But Selena tells the truth, and Emilia's just there two girlfriends talking. But then you can tell Selena feels like I'm talking too much, and then she gets up and goes to bed.
Ostensibly, she doesn't really know who Emilia is or where her...
what her intentions are.
And
where her loyalties lie.
Yes. And so we haven't really talked about Karla. Sofía Gascón, but what a performance.
Well, let's talk about that because, okay, I already knew that 4 of the ladies won Best Actor because you mentioned that in your Cannes review video. So
Actress, because it's still gendered in Cannes.
Oh, sure.
That award.
I have to say, I mean, for sure, Zoe Saldaña and Karla,
Sofía Gascón.
they do the heavy lifting.
They do for sure.
I don't think that Selena Gomez and the woman playing Epifania,
Adriana Paz.
while they did a fine job, they are not equivalent performances.
No, because it's in much more limited capacity. I did like both of them. But to me, it just seemed like such a way out of... Because even as it stands, Gascón is the first trans woman to win this award. So there still is that distinction, but it's like, I kind of wanted it to just be her.
Well, and I would still make the argument that I feel like she gave the best performance. Her performance has the most range.
She's the title character.
She's the titular character. She also is playing a male role very convincingly.
Which this performer has already kind of been through this experience in life. So it's like, I don't know, like that is asking a lot of somebody, in my opinion.
Yeah. And then the singing, which I think showed some vulnerability.
And she really reminds me, she has a very similar vibe on screen to Fanny Ardant.
Sure.
Like there's something very smooth and relaxing and tranquil and elegant. So yeah, I can't, like, even watching it a second time, I thought of Fanny almost the whole time.
But Selena Gomez, I don't know her except for that Timothée Chalamet movie I didn't like, with the Woody Allen movie.
Oh God, A Rainy Day in New York is terrible.
And I couldn't name a Selena Gomez song.
She's in Spring Break. Yeah, You Love Me Like a Love Song, Baby.
Oh, I wouldn't have known
Oh, is that Demi Lovato?
See, I mean, well, I'm not the age range for her.
I'm not either.
But
yeah.
it's no shade, except I didn't know her except for one movie I didn't care for.
Spring Breakers.
Oh, I couldn't have told you she was in that.
She's got a small role in that. She's in a terrible movie with Paul Rudd that I hated. I have not seen Only Murders in the Building, which apparently she's quite good in.
The point is, I thought she did a fine job in this movie.
Yeah.
Her first musical number is her singing about how she feels trapped, and I think there's some really great choreography in that number.
Yes.
And then she's, again, I don't know her persona as a musician, so I don't know if she's like more adult now, but I think she gave a very adult performance.
She did. Mm-hmm.
And then the lady playing Epifania.
Adriana Paz.
Yeah. What, do I know her from anything?
Probably not. No.
Yeah, but I thought she did a fine job.
I agree.
But for sure, the titular character deserves, I think, most of the shine.
Yes, for sure.
Speaking of Selena Gomez, there's a moment where she's singing karaoke with
Ramirez.
There are a few moments and editing choices that I found curious that I think will reflect in the score of this movie. But a really cute moment when the kids first show up at Emilia's house, they don't want to be there. They want to go to their old school with their old friends. And then these 2 little kids say, we want to be back in Switzerland because we want to go skiing. And Emilia's like, what? Because, of course, these are her kids. Like, when did my kids start skiing? So then we see later in the film that she has set up like a fake ski simulator. Mm-hmm. That includes, like, she put fans up so it feels like and the kids are so happy and it's so cute. And then I thought the cherry on top of that is after the kids are done playing, we see the housekeepers like playing on it.
In that particular scene though, Selena Gomez walks in after being out all night seemingly because the kids are about to go to school, and the look that Emilia gives her when she walks in the door, like...
Well, she's mad because not only did Joe Tramp ass stay out all night, but she has to have the driver take them to school, mm-hmm. which made it seem like that's Selena's one job, mm-hmm. is to get her damn kids to school. So yeah, the look she gives her.
It was it's like, oh, I don't want to... But yeah, and I think there's really nice chemistry with Rita, Zoe Saldaña's character. Like, I believe that they start to build this friendship and this camaraderie.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
To the effect where it's not surprising to me at all that Rita calls in support to go fetch Emilia.
Yeah, because you would think that a woman who feels like finally this could be over, mm-hmm. me being attached to this drug lord who's now has me like doing all their bidding, even after I thought I was done. I feel like if they weren't close, she would have just let Emilia die. Mm-hmm. But no, she calls in some heavy hitters. including a really tough lady.
And risks her own life. Yes.
And risks her own life to save Emilia. That was, I genuinely felt like the connection between those two characters.
I agree. I didn't know the first time watching this, but this is based on a 2018 book loosely by Boris Razon called Écoute. And the adaptation, of course, was by Léa Maisius and Thomas Bidegain, both of who are directors of their own rights that are quite interesting. And Nicolas Livecchi, who is not a screenwriter I'm as excited about because of his work on Jean Dubarry, which I thought was not very good. But I don't know, pretty impressive considering like Audiard is, 3 or 4 times removed from
The subject
and their experiences in the space, but which, I don't know, to me, I think the job of his director is not to have to be part of that community, but to let the players that are depicting it kind of assist in fleshing that out authentically, because I think it is possible, and I think welcoming, because I'm sure that there's going to be a strong component of people that rail against this film and what it's saying or who it was made by, but I think if you kind of realize the context of it, I think it is quite powerful.
I loved it. What would you give Emilia Pérez? 4
stars.
I would give it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.